today on the topic that you like a lot, which is figure classification. We have done our part one, so you may consider this as part two. We learned a lot of techniques in the part one, so we will continue with that and we'll learn a few more techniques. Jumping right into it. The first problem, and what I see here are the three figures given to you as usual, and we have different patterns filling them. So if you recall from our first part, the basic rule or the first rule of figure classification is probably to count the sides, and going with that logic, if I try to see, and for some this is obvious that this is a regular heptagon with 7 sides. Let's confirm that. One, mark the sides as you go along with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So that's clearly the 7 sides, the regular heptagon. This one is a different shape, but let's see how many sides. I'll use a different color. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. This also had 7 sides. So logically I must think this also had 7 sides. So let's confirm that too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and your 7. So our job is to find a figure with 7 sides from the given option. So clearly this has 5 sides, as we know, 4 sides, 4 sides. This is an 8 side, and count it for yourself. But the answer to my question is the figure E, which has 7 sides. Let's confirm that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So there you have your answer. So count the sides is a basic rule of any number analogies, number classification that you may see. Now this one is a little different. You have a rectangular with 4 quadrants, and the 2 figures are moving around. But a simple glance will tell me that the 2 figures are, one is a rectangle and one is a smaller size pentagon. Rectangle, pentagon, rectangle, pentagon. So my job is to find a figure which has a rectangle and pentagon. But not only that, I see another rule, another pattern is the rectangle and pentagon are on the adjacent quadrants, meaning that they too are touching each other in these 2 quadrants. So I need a rectangle, pentagon, and side by side. I have 2 pentagons, so that's not an option. So A is not an option. I have a oval here, so that's not an option. In other figures I have a rectangle, pentagon, but in figure B and figure E they are on the opposite quadrants. They're not touching each other, so I'm not going to pick them up because they are not on the adjacent quadrants. The only figure they are on the adjacent quadrants is figure D, and that is my answer. The third problem is where I see 2 figures given, and one figure is filled solid, that's a solid one, and one is a straight squiggly or the vertical squiggly lines. That's what I see. Vertical here, solid here, rather squiggly line and solid and squiggly lines. So my job is to find 2 figures. One is solid, one is squiggly. And if I see what I have here is this is 2 solid, so that's not an option. 2 squiggly, not an option. A straight line and a straight line and a squiggly line, that's not an option. So either A or E are my possible option correct answers. Another pattern I see is that the 2 figures, that if I call this the top figure as figure 1 and the bottom figure as figure 2, they are not the same, they are different. If I see in my possible option figure E, I have a pentagon and pentagon. I do not want the same figures at the top and the bottom. I want them different. So if I go with that line, I have a squiggly line and a solid pattern and 2 different figures at the top and bottom. So I will go with option A as the correct answer. The next one looks very simple to observe, but I can't find easily what are the parameters that holding these 3 figures together easily. Clearly this is 4 sides, this is more than 4 sides, this is more than 4 sides. So finding the number of sides and trying to see whether that works is not an option. What I will think of it is, let's say how their vertices or the angles or the edges or the endpoints look like. They are clearly sharp angular. If you check any of these figures vertices, they are sharp angular. And if I see here, this is a quadrilateral of some sort, four sides that is, but the edges are smoothened or beveled, as someone may call, so that I won't pick up as an option. Same is the problem here, the edges are beveled. Here there are no edges. Here there are edges, but then I would probably consider them as a little beveled, or it's a half circle, semicircle. The answer that fits my definition of a polygon with a sharp edged angles or vertices is option C. So that's what I'm going to pick up as a answer. The next figure, what I see here is I have a figure which is at the center, and there are two small figures at the top and the bottom, and the first glance will tell me that half cut part of this middle figure, that is a semicircle in this case, is at the top and as well as at the bottom. Similarly here I have a square. If I cut it, obviously I'll get a triangle, a similar shaped triangle, obviously smaller size at the top end and at the bottom end. Here we have an octagon, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 side octagon, regular one. If I cut in half, and that's what I have in the smaller size at the top and the bottom end. So I need a central figure and similar sized half cut figures at the top and the bottom end. That won't be my option. A semicircle and a triangle with an oval at the center, a square, a square as well. I probably need a rectangle here and a triangle. So two different figures at the top and bottom, two different figures at the top and bottom, two different figures at the top and bottom. So hence I will not use these A, B, C, D as options, but I look at the last one and I cut the central figure in half. That's exactly what I have at the top and the bottom end in the smaller size. That's what I need, and option E is my answer. The next problem gives me an interesting problem rather. What I have and what I can see, and if you have learned your fractions well, you will notice that the 50% or half of this figure is solid dark, and then half is not solid dark. That's here, right? So I'll mark them part 1 2 and 3 4. 1 2 are solid dark. So this solid dark, and exact number of triangles are not solid. So another half of this figure is shaded dark. Half of the figure is obviously shaded dark. So my job is to find which of the following option is exactly 50% or half shaded dark. Not an option, clearly not an option, not an option. These two could be an option, but if I see the shaded part in figure E is a lot more, while the unshaded part is only a small amount. So I'm not gonna take that, or rather if I put, let's say 1 2 3 4, if I cut this, so I have 1 2 3 4 rectangles are shaded and only 2 are not shaded. So that's not my option. Here if I do the same trick, I have 1 2 3 shaded and 1 2 3 unshaded. So exactly half of this figure is shaded. So D is my option as to this problem. We'll probably do 2 more problems in this session, and whatever remaining we'll pick up in the part 3 of my figure classification. In this one I have 2 similar looking figures, but if I think of this figure as looking up, then I have rotated the second figure, that's my first and that's my second, the second figure by 90 degrees to the right or 90 degrees to the clockwise. That's the pattern I see here. Similarly, if I see this as a upward looking, this is tilted sideways, so that's 90 degrees rotation to the clockwise, in the clockwise direction. Same 90 degrees rotation in the clockwise direction. So I need 2 figures, similar ones, but the bottom figure is rotated 90 degrees in the clockwise direction. That's not an option. It's a 180 degrees rotation entirely. 1 and 2, these are the same figures looking in the same direction, so not an option. This figure, if I say, let's say looking in this direction, or then this figure is looking in this direction. So one can think of this as a rotation in 180 degrees. This figure, if I just put an arrow in this direction of the vertex and this arrow in this direction of the vertex, what I have is rotation of 90 degrees, but it's in the anti-clockwise direction, so I'm not gonna pick this as an option. So if I go with this figure and just put an arrow at the center for this semicircle and arrow at the center for this semicircle, clearly I can see that they have rotated the top figure by 90 degrees in the clockwise direction. So answer A is the correct answer. So 1 minute to go, bear with me. I won't stretch it too long. Next one, what I see here is a simpler one, a quick one, is that the central figure has slanted lines. So I'll call this as a slanted lines. Okay. And that's really it as far as I can think of. All right. So if I just use the central figure slanted line as a pattern, this is not an option because central figure is horizontal line, central figure are dots, central figure are vertical lines, and here in option A, central figure are vertical lines. So what I have here is answer as option C, because the central figure is a slanted line, nothing else I need to worry about. So that's all I have in this session for you. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, then share and like with your friends who are studying with you, and see you soon in the part 3 for figure classification. Bye bye.